John Olukayode Fayemi of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Signed by my humble self, Ndowola Yinka, dated this 15th day of July, year 2018.
And that's INEC's returning officer declaring Kayode Fayemi winner of the governorship election in Ekiti State.
Well, APC's candidate Fayemi polled 197,459 votes, while his major contender from the People's Democratic Party, Kolapo Olushola Eleka, got 178,121 votes. Fayemi won in 12 out of 16 local councils in the state.
Oh, yeah. Okay, joining us in the studio is the Executive Director, Enough is Enough Nigeria, Yemi Adamolekun. Good morning, Yemi.
Morning.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Great to see you.
And we also have the Executive Director, Committee for the Protection of People's Mandate and an Election Observer, Nelson Ekujumi. Nelson, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Very good. All right, now let me start with you, Yemi. You were in Ekiti for a long period of time to monitor what is going on, build up to the debates that involved the political parties and their candidates and all of that. In the build up to election, if you compare what you saw in Ekiti and what you have been seeing in other states that you also have been to, what improvements have been recorded so far, would you assess?
In terms of elections or the state itself?
In terms of the political build-up to political elections?
Well, I think every state has its own dynamics. Okay. I think one of the interesting things about a state like Ekiti is that it's an off-season election, so you have everybody paying attention, including the international community, which we always find very interesting. But unlike other elections, I think it's really just a case of a former governor coming back. Coming back for a second term. That also made it quite unique. So it wasn't just an issue of us, an incumbent staying back. And then Ekiti also particularly because most people knew, jokingly would say that it was Governor Fayoshe's third term, because most people heard him a lot more than they heard the candidates of the party. So for me, I think those were the very interesting dynamics about Ekiti's elections.
Of course, I'll still come to you about the debate itself and what your impressions are about it. But Nelson, this margin, did it come as a surprise to you?
Well, yes, I think I was
First off, maybe the final outcome of the election itself and the margin.
Well, the final outcome, like we all know, is a reflection of the will of the people.
Yes.
But the margin was a shock to me, because I assumed that the people will be angry with the incumbent party in power because of the crowd there that pensioners and workers are being owed salary arrears of about 8 months.
Yes.
In fact, I've been in Ekiti in the last 2 weeks. And fortunately for me, I have relatives there. When I say relatives, I mean I schooled in Ado Ekiti. I went to the university there. So I had people of Ekiti origin who have adopted me as their son. And getting to some of them, some told me that there's nothing that will make them vote for a particular party candidate because his principal said, let me say it the way she said it in Yoruba, that he said, meaning that the living are yet to be paid, you the dead. He was referring to the pensioners. So I expected the anger to be showcased on the day of election. But lo and behold, another thing entirely played out.
What do you think played out?
Yes, I think a critical factor that played out was that you recollect that on the final day of the PDP campaign, the governor declared a public holiday. He mobilized people to the road, because that rally was held at the tip of the overhead bridge, very close to the Okesha market. And, people were mobilized that, come and collect your employment letter. Civil servants were given invitation. My junior sister of Ekiti origin, I'm from Ondo State, I'm an Elajeman, said she received an alert for 2,500 naira. Then, a day to the election, which was a Friday, the information out there, people were receiving alerts.
Alerts of salaries?
No,
or
alerts of
Stipends.
3,000 naira to vote, that, come out on election day to vote. People were receiving alerts of 3,000, 4,000. Then, come election day, it was an open market. Even though for some of us, we didn't see it physically, but we could smell it in the air.
Monies were flowing like water.
All over the place.
Okay. Now, Yemi, from your observation, would you say you are satisfied with the conduct of the Ekiti election?
Well, to the degree that people could come out and could vote, and there were no issues, the process, as you've reviewed, INEC materials were there relatively on time, much better than in Anambra. There were no limited logistical issues, card readers worked for the most part. So in terms of sort of the operation of the elections, yes, I think we're a step closer to sort of the seamless type of elections we want to see. Even people with disabilities commended that provisions were made, but there were challenges with positioning, so people couldn't get to the polling unit. So operations, I think, relatively were okay. But I think in the commercial, an election that's this commercial, there's a lot to be dissatisfied with, because at the end of the day, people give a lot of reasons. I mean, he mentioned a few. There's poverty in the land, people are hungry, and there's an election by nature is even an exchange, if you want to look at it that way, because people make promises. So you're making either promises to build roads, build schools, to build healthcare, but for the most part, they're promises around communal benefit. And so everybody, if you say you're going to do something healthcare or education or infrastructure, all of us benefit from it. So it's not you're not promising me as just myself.
Yes.
But when it's a cash transaction, a cash swap for your vote, then it's a completely different dynamic. Because once that's done, what then tends to happen is politicians really don't care.
Absolutely.
And also the people who've been bought, their voice is a bit muffled. You don't shout quite as loud, you don't speak sometimes at all, because there's sort of the psyche of the fact that we only see you during election time. So we're going to milk whatever we can now. So you stay quiet. The politician goes about not being held accountable, and that's not the democracy we want.
Let me remain with you, Yemi. You are the executive director of Enough is Enough. I mean, you organized that debate, which, of course, it was an honor for me to host that debate.
Thank you.
Now, when it comes to promises, by the contenders and all of that, the debate offers a platform, an opportunity for the contenders or the candidates to sell themselves.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, some decide, what's the point going to this debate? Or is it a case of believing that it's a done deal, it's sealed, there's no need for me to sell myself at any debate whatsoever to the people?
I think it's a bit of both. And as you can see, if obviously they didn't wake up on Saturday and suddenly decide, oh, let's look for money to share. No, the game plan was already in motion for Saturday. Our debate was Thursday evening. So it is a mindset around what do you think the people want, and what is it about what I'm telling them that they would listen to or will make any difference. So you hedge your bets and say, you know what, people want this rather than a sale of ideas. And in a sense, you also can't really blame citizens to a degree. We as an organization firmly believe in the value of debates in terms of moving our democracy forward, that we have to sell ideas. And when you sell the ideas, then people come back and hold you accountable to those ideas. Now, if politicians believe that people are not going to ask me questions or hold me accountable, or it doesn't cost me anything to make a promise on a stage and not deliver, then my tendency to participate or want to be there is limited. But I know that on election day, what it is that they can see in real time is cash. And I make that available, then it changes the dynamics.
All right, Nelson, the Ekiti people are known to be very enlightened people.
Highly educated people.
Very literate.
Yeah.
How did that rub off on the way they participated in this election when it comes to their knowledge of what is supposed to be, how the standards, the benchmarks, and all of that?
Well, I think from my own analysis of the events from yesterday, of which I'm very saddened, because that is not the way to go if we want to move forward as a people, is that I think the elites are culpable. Because most times you find out that the people that vote are the common man and woman on the streets. The elites are more comfortable sitting in the confines of their home or wherever they are. So you find a situation whereby the poor man on the streets somebody who has not received a salary in the last 8 months has this opportunity of earning maybe 4,000 from this party, 3,000, because it's the highest bidder. You know? So, you know, like we say, it's a common balance that, you know, self-preservation is the first law of nature. Yoruba say, Ebi ki n wonu, koro mi e wo.
Ebi ki n wonu.
Yes.
Koro mi e wo.
Yes.
You cannot be hungry.
You cannot be hungry and be rational.
Care about anything else.
You lose your rationality once you are hungry.
Like a hungry man is an angry man.
He's an angry man. That's
okay.
the message.
Yeah. All right.
So I think that is where we are today. That the level of poverty in the land has made our people become a people of man shall live by bread alone. That we are more interested in what I can get now, tomorrow will take care of itself. It shows clearly that there's a disconnect between us and the essence of humanity. That the essence of us coming here on Mother Earth is not to eat and drink and make merry. It's to leave our footprints in the sand of the
In that case, the people still don't understand the power they wield.
They don't know.
Not at all.
But what has played out now is a situation in which we must commend the electoral umpire, the process. Because it had gotten to the stage now that the political parties know that the era of writing results somewhere is gone. Now it is about the electorate. Whatever you can do to motivate the electorate to dance to your music. Because at the end of the day now, it is the electorate's power that is being revealed. But the undercurrents that drive that electoral power is another thing entirely. And that
So
is
obviously, the party that decides that stomach infrastructure would be one of its 6-point agenda understands the reality
But you,
playing out.
but the
Because
challenge,
look,
sorry.
yes,
No, I think the challenge is how the word stomach infrastructure is framed, because it's used in terms of as a palliative, if I want to use that word. But ultimately, if you run a government that allows people, provides an enabling environment for business, people get jobs, people who work get paid, healthcare works, education works, then the nomenclature of stomach infrastructure doesn't really work, because people can earn a decent living and live. And so the balance between knowing that the electorate on election day want something you can give them now, to an opportunity to sell ideas that you are then accountable to, which is why someone like a Dr. Fayemi, who is a man of ideas, I would have expected him to show up at the debates to be able to show that, you know what, we understand the dynamics of the state at the moment, but I also believe in the loftier ideas of being able to share ideas. When he gave his speech, one of the things he said is the 8-point agenda that I had, we'll go back to it. Yeah, so you have an agenda, you have a plan. Come talk about it. Understanding the challenges on ground, because you are coming, if you do win, you'll be leading people who haven't been paid in 8 months. Those are their issues. But it's not stomach infrastructure as election season. What happens in the 4 years? What are people doing to ensure that people in any state, in any constituency, actually, the standard of living, you are working hard to raise it up, and they can see it. Because when they see it, they respond to it.
exactly. Nelson, do you think, back to the issue of candidates showing up for debates or not, do you think there's a need for us to tweak our electoral laws to insist that any candidate who wants to, go for any election at any level must be part of a debate, otherwise they will be disqualified? Yemi, you're already responding to that.
I don't think we can do that. That would be an infringement on the rights of the individual.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It would be a violation of the law. But be that as it may, I think it's a plus if our elections is more about discussions, debates, and dialogue. It enriches the process. It also makes the electorate to be more informed, because most of the time, when you go to the rally grounds, it's more like a party. Nobody's listening. Like even I that I'm sitting down here, I heard one of the campaigns, and I was more interested in the musician on the bandstand. So, and you can imagine a lot of people will be in my shoes. But I was doing that because I'm not an electorate in that election. So I was there to catch fun.
All right. Yeah,
you were going to respond to that.
I think so. I mean, it's debatable around in terms of individual rights, but I think democracy in any country is adapted to the peculiarities. And this is our peculiarity, because if you have everyone from president to governor to senator who is unable to articulate and communicate what they plan to do, you put people at a disadvantage. And I think if that's what we need to get to, I would definitely support a law like that.
I think that plays to the political maturity or political maturity that now builds into a culture of a people. Well, Nelson, the Ekiti is one of the only states that has elected former governors, you know.
Twice.
Yeah,
Twice, exactly. Come back, beat the incumbent, come back, beat the incumbent, you know. What is unique about Ekiti in that regard that the former governors can go and come back, you know, and so on?
Well, I think that's the dynamics of democracy, that is about the people's will. And, you know, we always admonish when people make some, you know, comments that the same people that said, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest.
Say crucify him.
Were also the same people that said, crucify him. Even when Pilate said, what has he done? Crucify him.
Exactly.
So that tells you that man is an indeterminable being. That what would the man will, like Yoruba say, they can also say tomorrow Adeogun. So that tells you that man is unpredictable. So for me, I think it's a good development that man can express that natural right that is God-given. But whether he does it appropriately or not,
is another matter. Oh, yeah, I mean, is it a case of Biwaju Bashe law? In other words,
what did you say?
If you can't go forward.
If you can't go forward, let's go back.
Oh, okay.
Now, in going back, how much progress really can you make?
Well, I think part of it is also time and chance, because you also ultimately look at what was available. The former governor was able to come back because he won the primaries. So that speaks maybe a bit to who was in who APC as a party thought was their best chance in winning the candidate, or who people voted for, or the structure of delegate votes and how that works. So there's a lot you can unpack in how that throws people up. But I think ultimately is who puts themselves forward to be elected, and then people make a choice, as he said, around, well, this is here, let's do this one.
Okay. Well, we're rounding off gradually, but Nelson, the governor-elect now, Dr. Fayemi has, on the papers today, he was saying that he's going to pay salaries, backlog of salaries in 6 months. If you compare that promise, pitch it on one side and look at the realities of how much IGR Ekiti generates, and then how much is accruable to them from the federal allocation.
Yeah, they make about 400 million monthly right now.
I think it's very realistic. It depends on the management style, the financial, you know, wizardry of whoever is in the saddle.
Okay.
Today we have a government in power. We are selling crude oil at below $40 per barrel. And the government is completing projects. Projects initiated by a government that, you know, was earning about
crude has gone up.
No, but how much was crude oil per barrel being sold when the government came in? So it's about management. For me as an individual, when I got to Ekiti,
you went down to almost 20.
When I got to Ekiti and I saw the overhead bridge of about 17 billion naira, I was asking myself, if this government can hold salary for 8 months, how much is the wage bill of the Ekiti people in a month? That tells you clearly what is at play here. So for me, it's about if the government comes into power and decides that, look, the economic well-being of the people is paramount. Because if the economic well-being of the people is not paramount, the people will go berserk. So I don't think it is impossible for him to put up a plan, because before somebody comes up to aspire for an office, he must have ideas of how he's going to run his government. And he's aware of the reality on ground. The salaries being owed, I'm not sure Dr. Fayemi just heard about it yesterday before speaking on it. He has had it at the back. Even during his campaigns, those were the challenges he knew he was going to face when elected into office, just like other candidates. So I expect that for him to make that promise, it's one that the people of Ekiti must hold him accountable to.
And he would have counted the costs. How challenging would it be to deliver for the people of Ekiti, 3.5 million people? Tourism is huge in a place like Ekiti. You would think that that in itself, if that was the only thing that Fayemi focused on, he would not need to go to the federal, government for federal allocation, or,
It's huge. I mean, every time I drive through Ekiti, I'm always in awe of
It's
just
breathtaking.
it is absolutely breathtaking. That anywhere else in the world, the resorts will be on the hills everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, he tried in his first term. I didn't see resorts tried to build that up. As far as I heard now, it's been run down. So if he goes back, it's really something that Ekiti has that it can sell, even if it's just in the southwest. And also the culture of getting Nigerians to go on vacation within Nigeria. It was one of the things that came up when. Because of the exchange rates, people started looking inwards.
Yes.
Right, okay, I can't go abroad, where do I go? But it's something to leverage on people who might not be able to afford it.
But even beyond all that, the culture of going on vacation, Nigerians don't really have that culture.
Slowly we're getting there, slowly. Because also part of it is vacation cost and where do I go? So if you actually make it seem like, wow, it's not far, one, it's not far, two, it's affordable, three, it's actually beautiful. Then why not? And you have quite a number of tourism companies now coming up, organizing packages within and outside Nigeria. So it's definitely something Ekiti has to sell.
Not to talk of the natural resources that Ekiti has, bitumen, all manner of things. So
a lot to do.
Fayemi would have his job cut out for him already.
Well, Ekiti people wait to see
what he'll do, how he'll translate all of that. Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Yemi Adamolekun is the executive director. Enough is enough. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And of course, Nelson Ekujimi, thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right, very shortly, we'll be bringing you the news update at the top of the hour. For now, let's take a quick break and join Sarah.